For the first time ever, Sierra and Oliver convinced Graham and I to go to Burning Man this year, and it was so much fun. And before we left, the biggest thing that everyone had been saying to me was like, I'm sorry, I can't really describe it. I can't describe it. It's really hard to describe. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then we got there and I completely understood. It's just there's so much going on. It's not that you can't describe any one part of it, it's that you can't describe all of it. Like, you can't describe anything encompassing enough. But basically, anything you're interested in or a fan of in life is probably there in some form. It's insane. It's so much fun. We had a total blast, and I actually wrote in my journal like all the time, day and night, which I didn't expect because I thought I would just be like having so much fun running around I wouldn't have time to. And I was having so much fun running around, but it still felt like a really important priority for processing it. It was like, it felt like I was witnessing so much life all the time, so much like world everywhere around, that I had to write it down so that I could process it. And I think it made me enjoy everything a lot more. It made it feel like a lot richer because I would write it back and I would be like, yeah, that was amazing. I think also it'll be really nice to have those memories later because I can already tell like it's, you know, fuzzing into just one glorious, wild, chaotic, fun memory in my mind. Obviously, it flooded. That was big in the news. It got very blown out of proportion in the news, though. And like, obviously, just media hype is such a thing, but it had such a negative spin put on it, like all the dirty hippies got themselves stuck in the mud or whatever. And it just so was not that. Like, it was kind of intense. Literally. It was really weird to go from like being out on your bike 24/7 basically, like not sleeping very much, just exploring, dancing, finding amazing things like ropes courses and obstacle courses and bars and the craziest dance parties and just everything so alive all the time, to then suddenly go to being stuck in a tent for 3 days. But it wasn't actually bad, it was just different. Honestly, we sat in our tent most of the time and we played cards and we drank whiskey and we read our books and we had a little hand crank radio. And Gray was like, oh, I had this as a kid, I'm not gonna need this, we're not gonna need this, but sure, I'll toss it in the gear, why not? And let me tell you, we were so freaking glad we had that little hand crank radio, because I mean, I suddenly understood why like the fireside chats and just radio in general meant so much to people before there were other forms of media and entertainment, because when that's all you have left, it's like a lifeline to humanity. I have never experienced that before, and I don't regret that experience. It was really cool. It was so trippy to be like hanging in there in sort of this post-apocalyptic survival mode, and then get so much joy and comfort from hearing like three strangers' voices. I mean, they didn't feel like strangers by the end, the hosts. They were like, oh, friends. They were funny and they were comforting us and they were telling us what to do and what not to do, which some people ignored, but a lot of people listened to. And they were like so great and they were so uplifting. And we were like, oh, we're gonna get through this. It's gonna be okay. We had packed a little too much food and we were like, oh, we're gonna have way too much food. We'll just come back with a little extra. And then we basically needed it all because we were stuck there. And so we were sort of lucky in that way, although we were really excited for non-rehydrated camping meals by the end. Other people definitely ran out of food, but what was kind of beautiful was how everyone just completely came together and helped each other out. People were like bringing each other blankets and bringing each other food, bringing each other like hot drinks, offering each other space in their campers and their non-flooded tents to sleep. Like, it was so moving. It made me feel just really appreciative of the majority of humanity, because you see these times of like crisis, you know, kind of, not really, but like, you know, it was an extreme situation in some ways, and what came out of it more than anything else was just like love and kindness and people truly getting a lot of joy out of taking care of each other. That was so cool to see. I loved that aspect of it. And, once you've survived, and that's a cool feeling too. And then it made everything that started to come back to life really special. We were definitely walking around with plastic bags on our feet. That was actually the best method. If you walked around with shoes, you got so much mud caked on them that you basically had like 2 or 3 times the weight of the shoe within like a minute, which was awful. You could not ride your bikes. The bikes would like clump up and the mud would fill up the wheel wells. That was no good. Barefoot was like okay, but then you're dealing with that later. So the best method we found was to take gallons of Ziploc bags and like duct tape them around your foot and then walk around like a little duck. And it looked hilarious at first, and then we just got used to it. And now I'm looking back at pictures and being like, what happened to us? So that was the flooding part. And in terms of other favorite memories, too many good memories to count, but I did write down a lot of them, and they ranged from like finding a crazy hard jungle gym course that we got to test ourselves on really high up in the air, like late at night. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning, and we were just exploring, and you just stumble upon these things and you're like, what alternate science fiction world did I fall into? Drinking like old herbal bitters tinctures seasoned with cayenne pepper and clove and like interesting things, old whiskey saloon, and just meeting strangers and making all these random like life connections with them. Like, oh, you also went to school there? That's crazy. We're from totally different parts of the world. And suddenly finding yourself in like these fantastic gay bars with like 80 men in tiny little like pink sailor suits, everybody sipping like mojitos and singing yacht club songs, or taking over the top deck back section of like a massive space shuttle art car that's having like a rave dance party and just like being covered in LEDs and dancing your ass off, or trying to get into one place and having it be full and turning around to go home, and across the street seeing like a little coffee shop that is randomly having the most epic Broadway and Disney musical sing-along you could possibly imagine, that you join, and then 2 hours later realize you have been like performing a musical basically for 2 hours without even noticing, and going back to your camp just like filled with joy and realizing like you never even got anybody's name, but you feel like they're excellent friends now because you're all just theater nerds together. Or finding like a field of tiny hammock chairs and curling up like super early in the morning with bonfires and braziers like burning nearby, and just listening to like a classic rock band for an hour. Or randomly discovering a camp that has like soft serve chocolate ice cream somehow out in the middle of the desert, and like an actual mechanical bowl and like a giant foam pit that you can ride. I mean, like, again, it's not hard to describe specific things, but like putting your finger on exactly what Burning Man is, I don't know if I could even do that with all of my copious journal entries and everything. But the best way to sum it up, I think, is just that it's an adventure. We just got back from kind of exploring and found a really cool like aerial dance, lavender massage circus camp. Yeah, really fun. And now there's goldfish. I just went to a ground school flight training course here at Burning Man at the airport. It was so awesome, and there were a ton of really cool pilots and flight instructors, like ranging from small craft pilots to commercial and then FA flight instructors, and they were all super nice and it's really informative. And they also talked specifically about flying here at Black Rock City and how to deal with dust storms and everything, so that was really interesting and cool. In the background you can see a bunch of planes out on the landing. Strip, and this is just a wonderful community. Everybody here is so cool. Oh my god. Don't face plant. This is what our camp looks like on the outside. Mud. Friends. We were going ahead and taking the opportunity to boil water for food while we still can. There's some reading and some audiobook listening going on. We just cut up oranges to make sure nobody gets scurvy, so that's cool. These are our pets, Frank and Big Boy. They're bugs that would die out here on the playa otherwise, so we're gonna try to keep them alive until we get back to Santa Cruz. Yeah. It's raining again, and we can't go outside, and we can't cook any water or food, so I'm drinking whiskey and hard lemonade, and we're gonna read our books. I have to keep this short because battery is low, but morale is pretty high considering the situation.
There's gonna be like one slip that's gonna be a little bit too much.
Yes, the vertebrae of the great snake, wirus, metallicus.
Oh.
They lived many centuries ago in what is now Black Rock City. Rumor has it when the rains come, so